Henry, you sort of teased this out. Casey, you brought this up. When I was at DIU, the one four-letter word that we had there, and those of you who have been in this audience earlier to hear, it was the word requirements, because it presupposed that you knew exactly what existed in the world. And we would get senior general officers that would come out and say, I have a requirement for this. And I'm like, sir, with all due respect, A, do not wear your uniform because you're going to get mad that this guy's going to look at your ribbons and say, what did you get that one for not tying? And it's going to piss you off. And that same guy is going to be a guy in a pink tank top with cut-off jean shorts with a unicorn on the front of the tank top that's worth $500 million that has the exact solution that you want. So please look at that person as being your equal and sort of talk about what success looks like. What are the objectives that you want to have achieved? And so given that context, Henry, I'd like to start with you and work our way from there. How much easier would it be for you if DIU got away from any talk of requirements and just said, this is what success looks like and allows you to sort of innovate from there?
I'd say to a certain extent, DIU did do that insofar as they set there was a success requirement that we needed to hit, which was a demonstration of a performance benefit. But the issue is that's not sufficient for a defense customer to say, hey, I'm going to go use this. It's fine if we go and wrap a plane, we fly it, that works great. We need to make sure that we can sustain it, that we can do all the maintenance, we can integrate with the maintenance procedures, train folks up, have any patch repairs if they need to do it, they've got everything they're equipped to do it. So I don't know if it's possible for DIU to come in and say that, because you can only do that by engaging with the customer and the relevant stakeholders to make sure that you're making the right solution. Because if we made something which worked phenomenally well, but took 6 months to install and was a pain to do anything with afterwards, it'd be impractical and no one would ever use it. So I think from our perspective, the key thing is to get early access and as much access as possible to the people who we need to make our product work for and make their lives as easy as possible. And I think part of what we've been going through is trying to find our way to those folks and make sure that we're making the right solution. And even, we have the same thing when it comes to commercial aviation. There is not a material spec that you can qualify to put shark skin on a plane. So we have to come up with that spec. We can use existing material specs. We work with different OEMs to do that. But then we need to say, okay, how are we going to correlate the data that we get in the lab with material that we have out in the real world flying for months at a time? And so I think it's a journey, but I think as long as there's that collaborative aspect and making sure that the folks that are going to say, oh, wait, we have to do what to get this product involved? We want to make their lives as easy as possible, and being able to have that dialogue early and often is the best way to do it.
So having worked with the requirement community, I think it's a positive word. Meaning Q Branch, one of our guiding principles is if there's a capability need, I'm going to connect to somebody that has that already. And if I have difficulty connecting to it, then I will create. Creating is difficult. In the legal sense, everybody's looking for precedents. And it's the same mechanics. In the special ops community, I will scan every requirement document out there because that allows me to gain speed. It's the interpretation of that. That's where we have difficulty. That's where everybody doesn't want to take risk. I have to go to somebody that is there legal precedents there, from all of those things. I think we've written every requirement document possible and it is there. Great, let's leverage it. Let's leverage it. And there's a whole database at the joint, I forget the terminology, but thank you. Well, there's even down layer. It's having access to that. I would go find a requirement document and leverage that and boom, there it is. And if I didn't, being in the SOCOM environment, we used to write our requirements with the big left and right. Because to your point actually, we don't know what the future has. But we understand what either the community it'll serve or what effects that we're really trying to bring down on a target or to shape. So we'll leverage that requirement. But everybody, even in the commercial sector, they find a demand. What is that we are going to go down that pathway? That's my perspective.
All right, so before I talk about requirements, I just want to say I have in fact told generals that they need to show up in jeans and not their uniform, because otherwise they're going to freak the people that are pitching them out. And I've similarly told the people pitching, please don't wear a suit. You're very much not comfortable. Your jeans are fine. And then going back to prep the generals for, they're going to be in jeans. It's okay. So when people hear that AAL has a 52% transition rate, the first thing they ask me is, are you just that good, or do you have a superpower? And the short answer is, well, I like to think we're good. We have a superpower. And that is Army Futures Command is in charge of requirements for the Army. So what that means is I never go out with a requirement. I go out with a problem statement. I say, hey, industry, here's my problem. I need to fire faster. I need to resupply faster. I need to sensorize a robot to the point where it can diagnose its own maintenance and telegraph that back to its mechanic. You come tell me how to do that, or how to do a part of that. And then we work with Army Futures Command to either write a new requirements document or modify an existing requirements document if none supports that capability. So we have 61 active and completed projects. We have modified 22 requirements documents in support of them.
Yeah, so from our perspective, the requirements really, it's downstream a bit on the research side, right? So if we're working on things for, Army Futures Command, for instance, we have a point of contact, and what we like to do is quarterly touch points to make sure we're on the vector that they want us to be in. And then we keep them informed. We know if we need to pivot a bit. And those are the technical POCs that tell us that we're on the right path. Because nobody wants to go 2 years down the road to find out like we took a fork that nobody identified and we took that fork on our own. And therefore we're 2 years behind, right? So in the requirements process that these guys are talking about, so think about how long it took. So think about 1995, 96, somebody's writing requirements and it maybe looked like a smartphone, be it Apple or Android. They were writing in 1996, 97, 98. And when it finally got delivered, it was a Motorola flip phone. You know what happens? You know what soldiers do with that? Or airmen or Marines? They put that in the motor pool or they put it in their barracks and then they use their own kit. That's what happens, right? That was what was happening when I was in brigade command, which was some time ago and continues to happen because our processes take so long. And then we buy a bunch of kit that we don't need and we fill up our motor pools and our barracks rooms and supply rooms and storage rooms with things we don't need. And you'll see soldiers just pull out their own stuff. They'll pull out their own GPS, they'll pull out their own compass, they'll pull out whatever it takes. A lot of their weapons that they have will have things that are probably not authorized to be on their weapons, but they use it because it works for them.
Makes complete sense. So yeah, I mean, you'll eventually need to get to requirements in order to have a stable configuration, but at the same time, building on Henry's point, to be able to go ahead and get that direct feedback from the user is so vitally important, right? So some would argue that the last time DoD was truly great was 1945 when it was Dwight David Eisenhower working with George C. Marshall, because there was really no Robert McNamara who could McNamara the process of acquisitions. But I think we're going to get back there eventually. I think that when things go down anywhere in the world, a lot of these policies and procedures will go by the wayside because we need to get effects on target very quickly. And you're hearing it from leaders here that actually have the Jedi powers to be able to get things on contract